Welcome to episode 18 of the That Guy's a Maniac podcast, a somewhat gaming podcast hosted by myself, Farley, aka Kanzi11. I'm joined by my beautiful co-host, Richie.
Hello, Richie.
Alright, that doesn't work. I didn't say hello, Richie.
Hello.
At the head of the show, because now we talk like this. At the head of the show, some things for you to look out for, where you can find us on the internet. The prime place where we just post this podcast at the moment is www.thatguys.co.uk. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at That Guy's a Maniac. For at the moment, largely screenshots from Pokemon and occasionally subtweeting whatever internet drama is going on at the moment. But that's
I don't know. You take a couple of pictures of like Pokemon cards and things like that. And
yeah, that's
them
true.
On there.
I might talk about that. We'll see. However, the high quality setup, recording studio, and equipment that we have isn't cheap. So we couldn't make this show without generous fictional support from our sponsors. Are we sponsored this week, Richie?
We are sponsored this week. Yes, we are. We are sponsored by the Argent Dawn. These fanatical crusaders of the light that are protecting Azeroth from the Scourge have generously donated some funds for sponsoring on That Guy's a Maniac. So for all of your Plague Land Scourge killing needs, look to the Argent Dawn.
Argent
Dawn.
Yeah. Dawn. Thanks, Argent Dawn.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what are we going to talk about today? What is the theme of our show?
The theme of the show is that although much of games media would have you believe that we're all picking up and playing the latest games on stream and ploughing hundreds of pounds into buying the latest hot property, sometimes, dear listener, you just put a lot of time into one or two games. Or sometimes you have a game that's your go-to game. There'll be absolutely no prizes awarded for what games we'll be discussing as our kind of go-to games we've been playing recently. This is not at all a kind of cover-up for the fact that we haven't been playing any other kind of games, but we'll mostly be talking about Pokemon, WoW, and then you've got a secret thing to be talking about, right?
No, it's not really a secret. Just another game I've been playing, which kind of shits all over your initial point there.
No, for some reason I'm trying to justify to myself why it's okay to talk about Pokemon for the 43rd episode in a row.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like, what the last episode was a Pokemon quiz, and you were already thinking, are we at saturation point for our Pokemon?
That, we talked about the DLC, and then we talked about Let's Go, and then we did that romantic quiz.
The compatibility one, yeah.
So here we go, another week, I guess. But first of all, I wanted to talk about, because it's it's a strange time for all of us, I think. A lot of us have been in lockdown, which has actually meant, although some things have been hard, we've had a lot more time on our hands. And so what I've been enjoying is just investing quite a bit of time into games that perhaps never would have done before. So it almost feels like, certainly for me, when I was younger, and I think that's why we have this nostalgia for games that came out in the 90s, because you're at school or whatever, and you didn't have anything else on, so you could just get expert at a game or hundreds of hours into a game, and then we've complained at length on the blog and sometimes on this podcast as well about that game looks great, but it just looks like a time sink. And so it's been nice to just invest a lot of time in games. But I know that you have, well, we'll see what you say. I think you have quite a healthy philosophy when it comes to why do you play games, and how do you justify the amount of time you put into it. Because I'm looking at the playtime on Pokemon Sword Shield, and that's up to 565 hours, which makes me a little bit sick every time I save and I see this gargantuan number kind of go up a bit, because there's an opportunity cost to that 565 hours. That could be X many books that I read, or a skill that I learned, or a language that I learned. So I have a really hard time sometimes, and sometimes I'll just go off gaming for a long time until I really start to miss it again. So yeah, I mean, do you have this problem? Do you think about the amount of time you put into games? I think you have a slightly healthier philosophy towards it, or as I start to get a bit Catholic about the whole thing.
Well, I mean, I definitely don't I don't resent any of the time sort of spent on it, because the rest of your life is going to be working, getting money, going to sleep, enjoying time with your partner or whatever. But you do need downtime. And if you don't have downtime, you're just going to, I don't know, frazzle and burn out. Although I would argue that sometimes the way you approach games is almost worse than how some people have a work ethic. Like, I was astounded when I saw your Animal Crossing binder of every single thing that you created, and little tick boxes so that you could go through and, choose all of these things and sort of mention these things. And the same goes for Pokemon in some ways as well. It's like, I don't understand how you can choose to think, right, you know what, I'm going to spend the next 24 hours of this game getting my boxes in alphabetical order or something stupid like that. I know you would never do alphabetical as a fucking national text, and that's what it's there for. But yeah, it's just I don't really resent the time, but a lot of the time that I used to put into games, and this is something that's very, very pertinent right now because of COVID, was most of the time that I used to spend in my games was in my commute. So I would actually have a hell of a lot of time clocked up on like Pokemon DS games or games that I had on the PS Vita as well, and it would just be because I was on the tube or on the train or like getting from A to B, and I would just pack in the hours that way. And like it's easy when I used to have like an hour and a half commute, and that's 3 hours of solid gaming a day, and then before you know it, at the end of the week you've done 30 hours, end of the month you've done 120 hours plus, and it just very, very quickly adds up. And like Pokemon, I think it was Pokemon X and Y, I just had such a hideous amount on it. Like I had more hours than you clocked on it, but only because I was just like, I had an hour and a half to spend in the morning and in the evening coming home sort of thing. But now I don't have a commute. Things have changed a lot. I think one of the number one things that has changed is actually because I don't have the commute anymore. My days spread out a little bit more, and I actually have the time to do such things as like be home early enough to go to raids. And that's not something I would have ever thought I would have done in World of Warcraft. I didn't think, like when World of Warcraft Classic came out, I thought, right, okay, that's going to be me getting to 60, having a little bit of fun, that's about it. But now I'm actually part of like the core raiding team, and like join them every sort of Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I just thought that's really, really cool that I was able to do that. Cool is probably not the right word. It's not synonymous with World of Warcraft.
Well, no, there's also that, because and we tend to do it a lot, and you hear it a lot again on other people's podcasts or whatever. We're as bad, I think, ourselves, if you want to lump together the gaming community in inverted commas, in that you kind of have these hang-ups about saying, no, actually I really enjoy this, therefore I put this time into it, but there's a kind of a self-inflicted stigma about it. Like you like playing WoW. One of the upsides to lockdown, the pandemic and COVID is you've actually been able to engage in raids. That's cool. You should be able to say that's cool without kind of prefacing it with, well, I don't know if it is cool actually, because it's a big old gaming waste of time. And I do it, you know, I'm not saying but we all do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. You know, if it was, I don't know, it was chocolate tasting or playing cricket or, you know, the hobbies and pastimes that many people have, you know, they wouldn't necessarily be quite so self-deprecating about it, I guess. I don't know. Maybe this is just all my own hang-ups coming out.
It sounds like your own rationales coming out.
Yeah, but then I think that's so there's two things on that, and I think one of the reasons why I've stuck with Pokemon, and there are a few other series that have. I mean, there are a few other series that kind of stayed, you know, as games, and with Pokemon, of course, you can kind of transfer things over. Is because at one point in my life when things were kind of tough and it was just study and work and kind of really didn't have much money for anything else, pretty much all I had was Pokemon Sapphire and a GBA. And then, you know, I remember one month it was like, do I you know, eat nice food, or do I buy this super cheap sealed GameCube with Colosseum and box in it, and play it on a tiny CRT, and that's what I did. So you know, that was another period of time, and I used to play it on the train. So on the train in and on the train out was GBA Pokemon Sapphire, which is why I like that game in particular. So there's that side of things which kind of feeds into it as well, kind of nostalgia, and so it's nice to have, you know, for a while, kind of gaming was really a highlight of the day. There's like nothing else going on, you know, or it's just hard work and just being tired, and so it's nice to kind of put some time in without actually having that kind of depressing feeling surrounding it as well.
Yeah, but the other thing is, of course, it's not just life, work, and all that sort of thing getting in the way, but it's actually partners as well. And no offense to the people that manage to put up with our shit, but it's true. It's like we prioritize them, and quite often there is, you know, the times where we try to introduce them. You have more success than me with introductions to video games, I feel, but we sort of change the way that we play games so that we can try and be inclusive to our other halves, which we spend a lot more of our lives with as well.
Yeah.
And that, yeah.
Yeah. And then sometimes as well, you just hit, I mean, I think I hit it this week. It's okay, I've got it out of my system now. I want to put down the controller, and I don't want to touch video games for a while. You know, you just I have to do something. I could be sucked into this all day, every day. There was a moment where I was sat, and it was horrible. I was listening to a Pokemon podcast. I had just popped a metal box in Go, so I was kind of, you know, absent-mindedly catching Meltans whilst doing bits and pieces on Pokemon Sword and Shield. I kind of had an out-of-body, you know, moment. I was like, oh, hell, look at you! Look at what part of your life has the Pokemon Company not got its tendrils in right now? I think I was also ironically sat there wearing my Pokewalker as well, you know, registering.
Yeah. You were sat on your toilet, which is shaped like a Pokeball.
Yeah.
It's got
I was jigging my leg to get my Pokewalker steps up and my Pokemon Go steps up. But the other thing I was going to mention, because one of the things that comes up every now and then in the general gaming discourse, so particularly when you know, we're talking about games where you can't choose a female main character, and you know, people come up with this excuse of, like, you know, oh, well, it's my escapism, you know, I don't want politics or reality or whatever in my escapism. I've always felt that's kind of lame, and I don't really see gaming as escapism per se. You know, it's not like I'm transported to whatever Galar or Raccoon City and everything else phases out. That's never chimed
No,
with me anyway.
that's not what people mean by escapism. It is it's the same way as television or was called escapism and things like that. It is just generally a point where you can kind of shut off your brain from the troubles around you, and that's a fine kind of escapism, you know.
Yeah, but that I don't think that's ever been true with any. Okay, well, you could argue if you're playing Tetris, if you're in flow playing Tetris Effect, fine. Okay, that's fine. But that's where all great art, media, literature, and TV and film comes from. It's either a parable or like a moral tale, or it's based on some kind of reality, or it's more through to a documentary.
Yeah, I know, but the thing is, you're getting a story told to you. So the cerebral part of like having to crunch something in your brain just kind of moves out, and you absorb it sort of by osmosis. I'm getting very, very philosophical here, and that sort. But no, like
you mean diffusion?
Yeah, diffusion, not osmosis, because it's only water. Yeah. Fuck off. But the metaphor still stands true. But yeah, no, like when you're sitting watching a film, yeah, it can be something mindless like a Fast and the Furious, whatever film, and it has. What?
Have you ever? I know it's just a throwaway example. But have you ever looked at the Fast and Furious canon?
No, is there different timelines? Cause I heard the next one's going to be set in space or something like that.
For a movie that on the surface is a throwaway, they pay surprising amount of detail to how the canon weaves together across the films. Anyway, let's just say Fast and Furious for argument's sake. My
point is, like, when you're sitting in those kind of situations, yes, with games, of course, there is the ability to be cerebral. There is genuinely, like, and especially in our two examples of WoW and Pokemon, we can sit there and we could spend ages thinking, right, what is the best set of stats for X Pokemon, or what is the best set of gear for this thing, and do some theory crafting. And quite honestly, sometimes it is, like, and this is a little insight into who Richie is as well. But
the box lid is coming open.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, but like, for instance, like if you're in bed at night and perhaps you're thinking, oh shit, I've got to do X for work, or oh no, I need to do some life admin and get, I don't know, some kind of insurance sorted out for something like that. And sometimes, your heart rate goes up and you're thinking about this in bed and you're like, shit, I shouldn't be thinking about this. But one of the best things I do to completely turn that off is start delving deep into theory crafting for Pokemon or WoW.
Yeah,
and that sends me right to sleep, because it becomes almost like a Pavlovian escapism. Oh my god. Where did these words come from?
This is like an amateur philosophy hour. But no, I think that's exactly, and that's a really nice segue, because that's kind of where I was going. Is that I do find some escapism in games, but it isn't the kind of literal escapism that I think sometimes gets put out there. It is kind of unlike the real world, particularly at the moment, where just on all fronts there's a lot of uncertainty and hideousness. A game world, has a simulation or a place which has its own rule set, and I think that's what I really like with some games, not all games, but particularly with Pokemon, which is fairly complex game when you look at all the moving parts, but there is a robust kind of rule set, not only to the mechanics of the game, but also what you can and what you can't do. And so that's something that I'm kind of appreciating. That's what I'm really enjoying about these things. If I do this and this should happen, or these are, if I'm looking to train up a particular Pokemon, these are the potential moves that I can have, and here's the and so it's just a nice kind of it's a nice safe set of hard rules, and so I think that's part of my escapism, with games, just enjoying being in a kind of a self-contained pocket universe and not having to worry about uncertainty, or kind of being a master of or knowing the rule set and then working with that.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying there is like there's that definition of play or fun, which is learning within constraints or within, so it's kind of like that. It's just like, because you've got your sandbox world or your sandbox set of worlds or the set of rules that apply in that universe, you can they're usually much, much simpler as well than real world life problems. At any second, just walk across a road and get hit by a bus. Who knows, But because you've got these little set rules, you get to sort of live within that universe, and it does take you out of your own world and take you away from reality just for a little while. And I think that's probably where the escapism side comes from. And I mean, people were saying the same thing about TV and stuff like that, and I don't understand, because TV kind of went full circle and came back to just mimicking real life with reality shows. I suppose they've gone round this circle again. It's just clowns on TV.
Yeah,
but there we go.
Yeah,
go on.
Well, and now now with them, which I don't think anyone predicted really. With streaming just being such a popular thing. Not just within gaming, across cosmetics, across God knows what, and that's I guess that's the ultimate TV, right? Is watching somebody else do something, or kind of being part of a community of people watching somebody else do something.
I mean, that Twitch, the pure success of Twitch is just fucking nuts. I guarantees, like, if you had said that to someone, back in the 90s when we're playing our N64, it's like, people just prefer to watch you playing a game. Like, what? Yeah. What are you talking about?
And I think, well, certainly in this country, I think maybe everywhere, we never got a decent TV, video game, anything really, adaptation, game show. There's the odd documentary here and there, but they wouldn't be more about what's this crazy beeping booping stuff that these weirdos do in their bedrooms.
Beeping booping stuff.
It would have to have that kind of disdainful air. Whereas now it feels like, anyway, and obviously communities of interest are much more connected. It feels like, exactly as you said, you can almost want to go back to the 90s and just laugh at the TV execs saying you have no fucking idea what they'll be doing in 30 years time.
But I mean, like, we did have some good TV shows, but I mean, they were self realizing as to how that sort of subgenre was like looked upon as well. Like, if you look back at Games Master, it was fun. It was not the right format to do games in at all.
No,
here's somebody playing a game for 30 seconds and they're doing it competitively. They've never seen it before. This is a thing. And here, look, everybody is wearing fingerless leather gloves, trench coats, and sunglasses because they're all Neo from the Matrix.
And kind of the diversity of stuff that we're seeing on platforms like Twitch and YouTube is some people kind of do essentially gaming news podcasts. Other people really getting into almost art history, design, video game archaeology type stuff, and it's just like, we could have had all of this. And I don't know, maybe it's a hang up for our generation, which started on TV, whereas I guess younger people today, the idea of like, there's this program I want to watch, and I've got one window to watch it, and it's 6 o'clock on Friday, and if I miss it, that's it, probably forever. And it just felt like television was much more important than it is. I still see it as like I can't shift the notion that oh, something's on TV. That means it's mainstream, and that means it's important. And I think, that time is gone, and we're clearly seeing that. Anyway, philosophy aside, who wants to go first? Do you want to talk about Pokemon or WoW?
I think let's go WoW first, and then we'll finish with my other game that I've been playing.
Okay, imagine you're talking to an idiot who has not been following what's been going on with WoW and the expansions and what the current expansion is. So where did we leave when we talked about WoW last time? Where were you?
I think we left as I was doing some raiding in Blackwing Lair, which is the second big raid in World of Warcraft. And well, just to quickly drop it back to what has actually happened so far and where we're about to get to. So
previously
previously on Why Richie Has No Life. Previously on no. So we have 6 phases in World of Warcraft. Phase 1 was the introductory phase, and they brought out Molten Core with that. Phase 2 was Dire Maul. Sorry, go on.
When you say they brought out Molten Core, what does that mean? Is that there's like an extra area in the game? Was there an area there before?
No. Molten Core. Sorry, when they brought out was probably the wrong phrasing to use there. Because it launched with Molten Core. Now, there is arguments here. It's not very, very interesting, but basically, because WoW Classic is not the same as World of Warcraft, WoW Classic is actually the very last patch of the original World of Warcraft. So, the very, very last patch before the Burning Crusade, which was the first expansion, came out. So it has all of the talents, it has all of the tweaks, it has all of the updates that came with the final iteration of the game. But what they've done is they launched it out and they brought it out in different phases, just so that you can have content sort of rolled out as it comes out, as opposed to having a great big slew of content straight away and just breaking the game in a fashion. Do you understand what I'm saying there?
So what's the difference between the day before Molten Core is out or Blackwing Lair and the day after? Is it there's a new area, there's a new NPC, what's the difference?
Well, the day before Molten Core came out there was no WoW Classic, because it was the first raid. It was the first thing that came out. Skip to
the most Blackwing Lair. What?
Okay, so Blackwing Lair. Okay, Blackwing Lair was
coming.
Actually
You're all excited for it. It comes out. What does that mean?
It means that you. Well, the lead up to it was actually quite fun. What it meant was, the week before, they allowed you to get attuned to the raid. Now, attunement, I know, don't laugh.
You whip out a ocarina, and then you.
You have to do another dungeon, and you have to get to the very, very end of it, and you have to do a quest there. And that then allows you to actually enter Blackwing Lair. Yeah, but there was a lead up to it, and that was actually quite exciting. But basically, that then meant that you were allowed to get into Blackwing Lair. The entry to Blackwing Lair is actually quite weird, because it doesn't really follow. It's not like a door or a portal or anything like that.
Yeah,
you put your hand on an orb and you zone in.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, basically that was just suddenly made available. But with it, in that raid, comes with it loads of new gear. It also has new quests tied to it, and new craftables, and the ability to sort of make some new weapons and things like that as well. So with each phase, it's basically a gear jump. Yeah.
Okay, so that's why you're so excited about it, because it's new stuff to do, new stuff to get, new stuff to grind for.
Yeah,
new stuff
and
to
also previously, I hadn't got further than one of the bosses in Blackwing Lair, and so it was all new content to me to actually see the final.
So it was new content for you.
Yeah, nostalgia and catharsis also.
Okay.
You know?
All right. Okay. But, now I understand a little bit when you say this came out and this came out and this came out.
Okay. So phase 1 was Molten Core. It also had another raid, it's a very cheap raid. It's called Nixia, where you go and kill a dragon. It is super easy, super straightforward. It is just not fun anymore. But it's a thing. Phase 2 was the introduction of PvP, or the honor system, and that's where I hadn't leveled up to 60 at that point.
Yeah, I think you told us how you're basically a walking chicken drumstick.
Yeah, I was a snack. Yeah. I was just a tasty snack to horde people. You know, it's like, you're just so weak and easy, and you're gonna give me honor points. Boom. All right.
So that's when you shifted off to an island and landed turtles in isolation.
Literally in isolation. Went and killed turtles with like maybe 2 other people that were there as well. It's just it's a fairly unknown place in World of Warcraft, which is nuts that there's such a thing.
Let's go and farm some turtles until all this blows over.
It's brilliant because the turtles, they drop clams, and you can open the clams and you can get sort of different loot from them. So my interaction with my guild, who were all 60 at this point, and they were actually doing Molten Core raids and shit, was, there's this guy, he's sort of trying to stay out of the way of like PvP, and every so often I would just type in chat, right, I've got 40 clams, I'm opening them all up. What's the bets on how many golden pearls are going to drop from them, you know? And because it's just one of these craftable mat things, and it was good fun. But that was literally my only interaction with him until I actually got myself to 60 at around, I don't know, probably 2 weeks before Blackwing Lair dropped. So all that buzz and excitement that everybody was having, I was like getting swept up in that, and like, oh, you can come and heal for us. Yeah, cool, fine. You know, sure, okay.
You can sit at the big boys table now.
Yeah, exactly. And it was quite cool because I went through a couple of raids beforehand, and I went through the proper initiation because within the guild it's kind of like they'll give people a little test to see if they're any good at raiding, or if they want to continue on, what's their schedule like, and all that sort of stuff, or even if that person even wants to continue raiding and stuff like that. But yeah, so I joined as a holy paladin, and I was just doing some heals, and I wasn't great, I had shit gear, but you know, things happened, and we killed the bosses that we needed to kill, and we moved forward in that fashion, until one day the paladin class leader just sort of says, do you mind sort of staying after the raid and join us over here, blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh god, shit, is there something wrong? I thought I was going to get like reprimanded, you know.
So they kick the shit out of you behind the bike sheds and kicked you out of the guild.
But no, I had a proper initiation of being moved to raider, whilst him and a couple of the other paladins who dressed up in their tier sets sort of said, Neil Richaladin.
Oh god.
It was proper geeky, but you know, that's the sort of shit that you live for, you know. That is something I will remember, you know. And it was cool just to go through that and be part of it, you know. And hopefully we'll get some more paladins in the guild, and I'll be part of that next initiation of that raider sort of thing.
That's cool.
But yeah, so after Blackwing Lair, which had been out for, I don't know, probably like a couple of months or something, they brought out Phase 4, which is a new battleground, and also a raid called Zul'Gurub. And Zul'Gurub is it was designed as a catch-up raid. So for people who had perhaps not been able to go to Molten Core, you could get most of the gear that you needed to succeed in Blackwing Lair, but not as good as Blackwing Lair gear in some cases. So it was just it was an easy raid. People were expecting it to be worse than it was, but when it started, we were so over-geared from being in Blackwing Lair for 2 months, and we'd sort of distributed the gear, and we do have a core set, of people, so all the gear was quite well set out, to the point where we didn't even really see any of the mechanics of any of the Zul'Gurub raid.
The guy's still mid cutscene about how he's going to destroy you, and he's already dead.
Yeah, pretty much. It just became a case of our tank hitting it. It was dead, and I was just healing people around it. That was literally it. But then
you get to see the phase 2, phase 3.
Never. I mean, that's another thing. Is like, even just to go back previously to what I was saying about how they brought out the final version of World of Warcraft, but they're bringing it out in phases. What that meant is back in the day, back in 2005, they actually tuned down Molten Core to make it easier, which means that they actually released World of Warcraft Classic with that easy version of Molten Core. So it's actually not even that hard to run through as well. Most people are just using it to do speed runs and grab the gear that they need. So it's a bit sad in that, because I'd like it to be a bit harder, and try those mechanics and things like that. But that is what it is. Molten Core just became an easy thing to do for people. But now we are moving into phase 5 at the end of July.
So this is 5 of 6, and then question mark as to what happens with WoW Classic.
Question mark. Well, yeah, I mean, I've gone into ramblings on the blog about what happens next. Is it going to be...
What's the post called?
Classic plus the fantasies, I think.
There we go. www.thatguys.co.uk. Classic plus the fantasies. You'll see all.
But in all actuality, what's going to happen is the Burning Crusade is going to come out, or the Burning Crusade Classic. So there won't be any more World of Warcraft Classic. I don't know, or however they want to approach it. There was a post a few months back where they sort of said how to the community. Blizzard asked the community, how would you like us to handle this? Do you want to keep your characters in Classic, or do you want everything to move to the Burning Crusade, or anything like that? It's not been confirmed in any fashion at all, and there is still that possibility that the retail version of World of Warcraft, which has what's it called? It's called Shadowlands. It's going to have this new thing where you can revisit old expansions, and everybody's getting tuned down to level 60 as well. So there's a weird sort of corporate. There's like I could feel like I was at a meeting where people were thinking, how can we just get all of the people who liked our old game back into the new game?
Going back a bit, when you mentioned the Burning Crusade, you said, is it going to be, so instead of being WoW Classic, it'll be Burning Crusade Classic? What do you mean there? Do you mean that, so is Burning Crusade one of those ones where it makes permanent changes to the world?
So it was the first expansion that came out. It raised the level cap to 70. It gave everybody new skills. It made Ret Paladins viable. But it also gave a new world as well, new raids, new dungeons, and things like that. But again, it was another example of how much the game changed, because there was actually a lot that through the life cycle of the Burning Crusade changed for a lot of the classes and how they act and how powerful they were. So it becomes more of a, is history going to repeat itself, or are they going to phase it out and make people undergeared to start off with, or sorry, underpowered, and sort of move in those directions? I don't know.
This is can you think of another example in video games of this? Because this,
yeah, apparently RuneScape do it, where you can just go back and do, or they every sort of month they have like a season challenge where you go and play through an old expansion and things like that. So there is people who do that, you know,
because it's, you know, it's not a remake, it's not a reimagining. There are bits and bits, you know. It's like, you know, the state of WoW Classic as you're playing it now is a state that, you know, didn't technically exist if you were playing it the first time around, you know, with all the whatever the level and the gear combination and the talents that you've got and what's available and what's not available. So it's just yeah, I don't know, do we even have a term to describe what's happening? It's like
it's its own thing, and it's weird because as you follow it, there is so many new metas evolving as everybody's banging on about. So when the game first came out, there was the dungeon meta, which basically meant that people were leveling up through dungeons alone, and it was, or dungeon cleave, sorry, where it was just a bunch of mages and they were just doing AoE damage, and you know, it was just insane how quickly you could just run through the game and never actually see the outside world. Just go from dungeon to dungeon to dungeon to dungeon, and
just a walking gaggle of carpet bombs, basically.
Yeah, basically. But this was all perfectly doable back in old the original version, vanilla version. But it's just people weren't as tuned in. But because there's such a bigger community now, because everybody can come together much easier than they could in the previous iteration of it, where it was more just sort of down to a server and server basis. Now the whole world is tuned into, like, you know, Asmongold doing XYZ or whatever, or whoever it is on Twitter who's got the new meta or is discussing the new meta. It's just way more accessible for everyone. Now there's currently a meta for dungeon boosting, where people aren't even fucking playing it. They go to a dungeon, they pay someone 8 gold, and that someone basically is a level 60 who's overgeared and can clear the whole dungeon in like 5 minutes, and you just get boosted through it.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a bit sad. I personally not interested in doing that. That just takes a lot out of the game for me.
Yeah, it comes up with because you see this. Sorry to take a slight divergence. But you see this mechanic in a lot of gacha games. I think we talked. I can't remember in what context we talked about it. But when kind of a key, or not a key mechanic, because in this game it's something you basically opt to do. But you know, when you're getting tickets to kind of skip battles and get the rewards, you're like, hang on, what, you know, or games which have autoplay. You know, how broken is our interaction with these games, in that we want to play them but we don't actually want to play them because, you know, they're boring, or this bit is boring, so kind of skip me through. And I find it really interesting. And I'm not saying, as you weren't either, I'm not saying, you know, you shouldn't do that, or you should, you know, it's not for us to tell anyone else how they play. But it's interesting how these things come up, you know, and obviously for some people, they've decided it's worth my 8 gold for 5 minutes. I want to provide a service. Other people want to use it. Fine.
Yes and no. Like, if somebody chooses to play it that way, it does mean at the end of the game, there's going, or at end game, not the end of the game.
At end game. Before you hit the credits.
yeah, just before you hit the credits. No, at end game, you're going to be, it's just relearn your class. a bit as well. And you might not be as geared, or you're going to have to do other things. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that the way that you level up is perfect. It's a fucking grind, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And it can be. But at the same time, choosing for someone else to do it and paying them gold. Gold is like not the easiest thing to come by in that game, you know. In vanilla or classic, it's still a hard commodity to make gold, and you've got like people who control the economics of these fucking servers and things like that as well. But yeah, it's tough because all of these new metas do appear, and as soon as a new phase comes out, a new meta will appear for somebody to do something else. So, for instance, Zul'Gurub came out. It was a level 60 raid for 20 players rather than 40, but there are still mages that are able to solo big parts of it and are actually doing boosting in Zul'Gurub as well, which is fucking nuts. You know, like back in the day. When WoW was WoW, and there was none of this easy soloing. Hovus was Hovus, and but yeah, no, it's odd because like there's no way anyone could have conceived of somebody just being able to grind down that sort of stuff. And kill all these big packs of crocodiles or whatever in the original game, and it is a thing people do for money now, you know. No, yeah, it's like because you've released the game in a different age and with different what's it called, different connections to the rest of the world through social media and Twitch and all that sort of stuff. It just becomes a bit more. It becomes more of a game than anything else, and all these metas emerge. That's
interesting. It's something you've mentioned a couple of times when you've been talking about WoW Classic. Is that and I don't know. It's something that I always assumed was the case because you know, World of Warcraft was a massively multiplayer online game, so you know, if you've got it, you've got a computer. But was it just the case that back in the day they're just, you know, there weren't the same forums or video, you know? I imagined it was always a connected community, right? There was like one or two.
Yeah, but keep in mind that like there was no YouTube guides. That's how old WoW was. There was the closest. No, it was 2005, 2004, 2005.
Like was YouTube in 2005.
There was not YouTube guides. The only thing that you got on fucking World of Warcraft on YouTube, because remember it was much different time. Was AMVs. You know, it'd be Torrens dancing to fucking Numa Numa. You know, that is what the gaming community was doing in those times. They weren't doing walkthrough guides. There was no concept of somebody talking through a microphone and saying, and this is how you can best do Stratholme in 45 minutes. You know, like, that just wasn't a thing. Guides that I used were written guides. Written by people.
They were handwritten, and they passed around. And
they were on parchment.
Somebody in your village would transcribe them, and every now and then they'd make a mistake, and then that's how you got your WoW strategy from the travelling WoW strategy man.
Yeah, exactly.
He came to the village once a month.
And I remember it was. I think it was. Jonah's WoW guide, and that's what everybody used, and it was just basically a web page that everybody went to, and it was websites that were dedicated, and there was only like one or two that were good at it. So there was Thoughtbot, which became Wowhead, and it's just basically a great big encyclopedia of everything World of Warcraft. But it would still take time for a page to load. That's what I remember.
Oh, God.
That's how old it is. You know, you would be playing World of Warcraft. You would open up, not even Chrome in those days. It would have been fucking something else.
AOL Online.
It could be something like that, like probably not Internet Explorer, but it wouldn't have been Chrome. You'd have been opening up a browser in the background. You would have gone to search for something. You'd have gone back to the game, and then you would have come back to whatever that search was doing. I remember that as a thing, and it's just crazy how old it was back then, and technology as well. I mean, that's the other big thing here, is like we were playing those games on like not very fast internet. There was lots of latency, so the game is now way smoother and nicer running than it ever was before. Like PvP is actually a bit more competitive as opposed to what it was back then.
Whoever has the best connection wins, basically.
No. Sometimes it's the person with the worst connection that won.
It's time travelling around and manipulating space and time. In fact, amazing. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird how the mind works, but I would have said.
But
surprised that none of that stuff existed back when WoW had its first run.
Yeah. So I mean, its first one, it was just like websites, like Big Red Kitty for the hunters, and Big Bear Butt for the druid tanks and things like that, and that was that was our go-to of information, as opposed to the slew of videos that you can see on YouTube now for guides on how to do, kill the crocodile packs in Zul'Gurub or whatever, like there is just so much information out there, it's ridiculous. Not to mention you can join a Discord, which that's the great big deep theory crafting shit that's going on as well. But yeah, so where was I?
I think we just caught up with what's been going on in WoW. So what are you doing now?
Well, right now, currently, it's Phase 4. So this is still Zul'Gurub.
Right.
But, in all honesty, this is Billy Big Balls here.
Oh, God, yeah. You're Scottish world champion. Wow.
We, as a guild, have, trounced Zul'Gurub to the point where we're just not even going anymore. Like, we've got to fully exalted. Wow. We've got everything we need. Tough. We will go back. Yeah, we will go back.
Hard. So brave and tough. Heroes, one and all.
But yeah, it's been super easy. So we've got to fully exalted. We'll go back for enchants occasionally or something like that. But I think Zul'Gurub was dead to us. So what we're doing now is we're actually just doing nights of Molten Core and Blackwing Lair together, because we got the time down on both of those raids down to about an hour, and we're just sort of having a little play about. And I've been because I've one of the better geared Ret Paladins in there. I've just hang
on. One of the better. Are you saying you're not the best Ret Paladin in your guild, let alone your server, let alone the whole game?
One of the better geared Ret Paladins in there.
So we need the opposite.
I'm not quantifying where I am in the scale of
Susie Smallballs. So you're saying you're Susie Smallballs.
Susie Smallball. But actually, it's an oxymoron to say anyone is a good Ret Paladin.
Yeah, I mean, especially you, I imagine.
Oh, fuck off, prick. But yeah, so I've been doing some damage dealing in Molten Core and Blackwing Lair. It's been really good fun. And I have been deep diving into the Spelladin meta. How many of those words did you understand?
I understood deep diving and meta and Ladin. So I imagine, what is this, a build where you can cast spells as a paladin?
Yeah, essentially yes. So it's not
Crack
casting.
Your code. Without the Enigma machine.
There you go. Billy Big Balls Code Cracker.
Yeah. So, what's a Smeladin?
A Smeladin, it's basically worse than a Rep Paladin.
Cool. So you weren't content with not being a good paladin, or not even being the second best paladin. You're artificially challenging yourself by being an even worse paladin.
Yeah, it's basically because I've got all of the best gear for it, and it's also it's just different, and it's fun. So like the whole concept behind it is just to stack yourself up with as much spell power gear as possible and hit things as fast as possible, so that you're doing more little damage in a smaller space of time, sort of thing. And yeah, it's good fun. I've got a big ninja sword and the full tier 2 with it as well, which is good fun. But yeah, you don't care, and nor does anyone else out there. But yeah, ultimately it can never even perform as good as a normal attack power paladin.
Yeah, so you're kind of spinning your wheels a bit, coming up with gimmick builds because you can.
Yes, until we're waiting for the release of Phase 5, which is at the end of July. So Phase 5 is bringing with it Encourage or AQ.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's another 2 dungeons. So it's slightly it's a bit different. With it comes the war effort, which is a special event where everybody has to collect, lots and lots of things, and eventually one person will win the Scepter of the Shifting Sands, and there can only ever be one person in the whole server who can get this. So it's super special.
Sounds like Harry Potter.
Yeah, there can be only one. No, I think you're thinking of Highlander.
One person is Mary Sue, and once they get the Scepter of the Shifting Sands, and they're the best at Quidditch, and they're the only person who can resist Voldemort. Okay.
But again, this is...
You'll be Harry Potter?
No, I'm not even going to try for it. No desire. But
not with that attitude.
No, not with that attitude, not at all. No, but again, this is another very good example of the war effort. Back in the day, the war effort took ages, and you need to do it in order to get access to the raids. So until that is unlocked on that server, nobody can get access into that raid. So it is in everyone's effort to do it as quickly and as efficiently as possible. But nowadays, it's actually firmly believed on most servers, the top guilds, whoever they may be, have already got everything they need stacked up and ready just to hand in, and the gates will open within hours of the release going out. So, like, all the magic of the war effort is just kind of gone.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame.
And so how do you decide who gets to be Harry Potter?
Well, basically, it's probably whoever in whatever guild has put in the most hours or has done the most for the rest of the guild, or is a guild leader, or has stated from the start that this is what they want to do, so everything in the guild is around this person getting that. So it is really going to be, it's almost like a mafia thing. There's nobody can go in and ninja it. It has to be, like a big guild with lots of people in it who are all working towards that.
It's not like I don't know, the Hunger Games where each guild gets to send a representative to the Thunderdome.
That would be cool.
The scepter's hanging from a rope on the ceiling. Okay.
But yeah, along with that, yeah, you've got the two new two raids. Once that opens up hours after it releases, there's a little sort of revamp of the gear as well. But yeah, there's two new raids. One is the Ruins of Anchorage, and the other one is the Temple of Anchorage. And
is it all like Egyptian themed? It sounds Egyptian themed.
This is what I was about to just touch on. It's a weird fucking raid, because yes, it is very, very Egyptian. Like, you straight up you'll be fighting giant Osiris type guys, you know, like jackal headed. Yeah. But you'll also be fighting a lot of bugs.
Is it? If there's scarabs, that's firmly in the,
yeah, you could argue they're scarabs, but there's like a big scorpion thing. There's a tremor's worm. There is a bug trio. There's a giant gloopy slime thing, which can only be hit by frost.
Yeah, slime thing's not on the mood board, but the other things easily.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's not super Egyptian. It is set in the desert, but ultimately, the final boss of the whole thing is called Cthulhu, and he is straight up Lovecraftian Cthulhu shenanigans. Yeah. He's not like a weird squiddy monster thing, but he's a sort of round giant eye, kind of like Sauron sort of thing. Yeah. And he's a sort of round squid thing, and he's all to do with madness. And he has he can suck people into his stomach and all this sort of stuff. Have a look for Cthulhu if you can be arsed after this. And you can just see some pictures of him. And he's arguably one of the hardest bosses in the game. Which basically means that in between all of the double raids that we're doing, we're actually spending a lot of time and money, in-game money, to get ourselves geared up. And why I say geared up is actually because a lot of the damage that happens in Anchorage is all nature-based damage. We're having to get as much nature-resist gear as possible. So we're doing that, and we're creating nature protection potions and other things similar. Basically, just trying to find our get ourselves as optimal as possible in there, and until we find out that you can just walk in and hit things and they die so easily. Because that's the other thing, is with every single one of these phases, it's been like Blackwing Lair. Oh, it's going to change everything. It's going to be so hard. Finished it, in a couple of nights, and that was it. And now we've got it in an hour. And Zul'Gurub didn't even phase us at all. I don't think I've done one death run from Zul'Gurub.
Do you imagine there's been a discussion, or maybe there are discussions about, how would the community, or how would your guild react to if when the next one comes out they've changed it, and those changes could be they've tweaked all the elemental things, or it could be actually we're just adding zeros to this HP bar, or
do you mean to the previous raids or the?
So, well, I guess with all of them, but with this upcoming one, now that they've seen a couple of them be burnt through super quick.
Well, there's definitely been voices in the community that have actually asked for that. Sort of said, "Can you just give us a hard mode? Just add some zeros in there. It is too easy at the moment." And that's not necessarily like the big players of it, or the basement dwelling ones. It is like just generally like our guild is casual plus we call ourselves, because we do try, but we're not struggling with any of this content, and therefore, I would say that the top guilds, all they're doing is speedrunning it. And in fact, like this week, they're talking about someone who did Blackwing Lair in 25 minutes. And he's like, wow. I mean, that just shows you that it's far too easy, and people just aren't getting to see the mechanics or sort of play about with them in that sort of fashion. But there you go.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah. Well, sorry, I'm ending in a little bit of a downer. I am excited for Anchorage, because, again, I have seen AQ20, but I've not seen AQ40. So that's how they're kind of defined as well, because one's a 20-man instance and one's a 40-man instance. But yeah, it's just going to be new. Whether it's hard or not is I'm kind of leaning towards the people are probably overhyping how hard it is.
But then that's fun. And again, this is one of those unique things about video games and the way they release and update. Is all the effort that you and your guild are doing. Kind of when you were discussing it, it kind of sounds like an Ewok village full of people with like production lines. Here's the mountain of nature-resisting potions that we're just cranking out. Here's the mountain of this particular gear that we're gearing out. So, that is clearly something that everyone's invested in and enjoying or putting time in. So yeah, I really enjoy that kind of anticipation. When you're kind of teased something in gaming and there's a lot of anticipation around it, and we've had that a bit with these kind of short-term events in Pokemon Sword and Shield, which we've had no notice of. So in your case, or in Wow's case, it's a bit strange because you sort of know what's coming up, but perhaps don't know exactly how it's going to be. But you know the major beats. Whereas when we were teased the Crown Tundra and Isle of Armor, and it felt like everyone was doing that mini Slowpoke event and hatching Slowpokes, and you were getting loads of Galarian Slowpokes, and then they had the Mewtwo event, which was cool, and the Zero Aura event, to just create that kind of buzz and excitement and anticipation around something.
And it's just like in these little sort of like forums and stuff like that, that's where all the buzz comes from. It's like, oh, like this person's doing the same thing I'm doing. This is cool. Even
if it does mean you open the gates within hours of the new content launching and start ticking off both raids, hours, days, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I will of course update you.
I look forward to it. I always it's a weird thing to kind of for you to be like my man on the inside, and I know what WoW looks like, but no idea or willingness to kind of jump in. So yeah, it's cool to get these updates from someone who's on the edge.
But yeah, and then just to very quickly finish, the Phase 6 is for Naxxramas, which is the final big boss of the entirety of WoW Classic, and that's going to be a great big raid that's actually meant to take hours to get through and ridiculously hard. But it's proper. It's not like Egyptian shit. It's actually like undeads and paladins and stuff like that. So that's the one that we're all looking forward to. At that point, just got the game sort of thing,
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Right. Yeah. So, I'm not going to ask you what are you playing, but tell me about Pokemon.
So, I've pretty much been exclusively playing Pokemon Sword and Shield, and if not on Sword and Shield, mucking around in home, doing the wonder trades. Room trades are just broken. Have you ever tried to do a room trade on?
How? I don't even understand what it is. Why is it even a fucking thing? Because there's no way for you to communicate with that other person.
No, and all that happened. So for those of you who don't know, Pokemon Home came out. It's an app it's on the mobile phone, but it's also on the Switch. It's free, but there's a premium version. It brings back a lot of functionality we had in older games. So there's some complaint about it being, the old idea that we paid for. But in that, you can see everything you've got stored on Pokemon Home, which is just a series of boxes, super fucking boring. And you can, organize them by Pokedex number or height or level or attack or whatever. And there's also an area called the GTS, which is the Global Trade Station. So you can put up, so say you wanted Oshawott. You can put something you've got an abundance of, or you caught a high level or whatever, or you've been breeding something. So I put my Jigglypuff on there. Say I want an Oshawott. That then sits there. Other players on Pokemon Home can find it and trade. The other version, which is kind of something they've introduced in last recent few games, is called Wonder Trade. So it's just random trade. So you put up, I can't remember how many it is now, even though I do it every single day. 11? Something weird, isn't it? 3, 5, 3? Is it 11?
I don't know. I gave up on Wonder Trades.
Okay, so I put up 11 Pokemon. It might be stuff that I've caught that I don't want, stuff that's come out of breeding that's not genetically pure.
Oh, dude! Wow.
Yeah, eugenics that shit away, and then you log in, and then you after a set period of time, they change the time, so now you can do it 4 times a day, I think, and you see what people have randomly traded for you. And then the other version they have is called Room Trade. Now, when Home came out, and they've changed it now, maybe because of COVID, but also, I don't know why it didn't work like this. But if, say, you and I couldn't trade through Home, because you had to be geographically next to somebody in order to just do a straightforward trade. You could kind of do it through the GTS, but that's a bit of a risk. And this other thing called Room Trade is, they've changed it again. I think you used to be able to do 3 a day. Now you can do 10. Is you enter a virtual lobby. They've changed the timings. It used to be you'd have to wait for 3 minutes, I think, for the room to have many people to get in the room. Then you had 3 minutes to choose a Pokemon, and then you kind of randomly swap Pokemon with other people. It'd take you to a little cutscene, and you'd get one of the Pokemon that was kind of coming up. And all that happens is you create a room, and you either get into a room that has 10 or so people in, and normally that room will go through to the next phase, or you end up in a room with 1 or 2 people in, and it'll either boot you out or everyone will leave before the timer times out. It's the most
but it's the same issue again with just normal trades as well. I don't even understand how or why that exists. You can just say to the whole world, you go in, you say a thing, I want to trade. So you go into it, and some random person goes into a trade with you, and you can highlight an Eevee, and he'll do something, and then it's just kind of what? Why is this? What is even happening here? There's no way to say yes, I want this one. No, I don't want this one, or I am looking for something like this, and it's just what? Why? It's I understand it existing if you're standing next to someone and you say, I'd like to get this, but why can you randomly choose somebody on the internet to swap a Pokemon with that you can't even state your preference of Pokemon to them?
And it wouldn't be I understand that the Nintendo, Pokemon Company, whatever, Game Freak are very conscious of protecting players, particularly younger players.
Yeah. They had that issue with Chatot for a long time as well.
Yeah, they did. So to their credit, they are some of the friendliest games you can find. Very rarely do you get any kind of harassment. Occasionally you get the naughtily named Pokemon, which they seem to have gone backwards on. It used to be strict for a while, and now it seems to be much worse. So I can understand that, but give us tools.
Sorry, give us an example there. Naughtily named.
Yeah, so so if you decide to call your Onyx
anal beads,
shit snake or anal beads,
Yeah.
you can, and then if you join a raid with, a random person on the internet, they will see shit snake, or if you trade it to them, it will say shit snake arrived from wherever. And the filter used to be, I think it used to be a filter. There doesn't seem to be a filter now. I've been in raids and received trades.
Pokemon Go still has a very, very strict filter on it, and it's fun because I try to find the best way to get round so a lot of these ones and name them the most obscene things I can. So, like, very famously, remember when I met up with Fraz, and it's like, right, okay, I named my Pokemon Deep Throat. What is my Pokemon? It's like, Gyarados? Boom!
Yeah.
It's like so I spend a lot of time choosing the dirtiest names possible because that's my escapism, Farley.
I don't want to deal with politics and all this drama. I'm just going to go and give some
name my Dragonite Erection.
Yeah, to then trade to a 7-year-old in Japan. Cool.
No. Erection's got great stats. I'd never trade it.
With the trading, I don't know why they don't give us, some tools. It could just be a list of species names, a tick or a cross or a thumbs up or whatever symbol.
An eggplant emoji. Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
No, yeah, exactly. So minor aside, complaining about home, which is obligatory at this point. Just really enjoying. I think what the Isle of Arm has added is it's nice to just be in that world, in that space. And going back to what we were saying earlier about working within certain rule sets, I've got it into my head, or something I like to do is if I've got a particularly special Pokemon or a shiny that I've bred, found, or got traded, I'll kind of make sure they have a very good move set, that they have all their stats, have all their stats optimized. And the other thing, which is a purely cosmetic thing, which they've kept in, for one generation they pretended it didn't exist, but that's the ribbons that you can get.
Yeah.
So going as far back to Sapphire on the GBA, you would get ribbons for doing certain achievements. So if you beat the Elite Four, you'd get a ribbon. If you had max friendship, you'd have a ribbon. You could transfer it to Coliseum or XD and beat the 100 battle challenge, you get a different kind of ribbon. And so there are a few available in Sword and Shield. So all I've been doing, because now I don't know where you are actually, I don't know if you imagine you dropped off, but I'd say I'm firmly in end game. So I'm maxing out cash every day, slowly just buying up everything in the clothes shops, kind of got a route of berry trees and hidden items, and then convert some of those in the chromatic and then sell those off. Got all the berries that I could ever need, so firmly in end game, and so that's what I've been doing. And so this last couple of days has been this weird, how you end up setting yourself up meta challenges, and this is what I wanted to talk about, because nobody is absolutely nobody is coming into my house and saying, show me your Pokemon, and like, I can't believe you went with that build, or haven't you got this, haven't you got that. It's just something that
except me occasionally,
except you occasionally, but then I feel like you're not on the other extreme end of the spectrum, but you're not, I don't think you've ever been that interested in ribbons. Get into builds every now and then, but not kind of obsessively. And so the challenge has been, so there are 5 ribbons. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there are 5 ribbons available in Sword and Shield. 2 of which you could get before. Then there's one for beating the not the Elite Four, the tournament that you have at the end, which is dead simple. What I really like about this is they've changed that. So instead of it being you have to go through 4 trainers and then beat the champion, you go into a tournament and you have to win 3 battles. So you can just put on a good Pokemon. I think the NPCs are level 70 or something, and it's trivial to just go through and get those. So what I typically do is have my good mon at the front, the 5 that I want to get the Galar champion ribbons in the back, or sometimes just go all 6 new ones, bash through that, and then you'll get this ribbon. Easy peasy. There's one ribbon you get for beating a player in master rank online, so it's essentially a PvP ribbon. Fortunately, my irrational rule set has decided that I am not interested in getting these ribbons.
Okay. Despite having optimal builds.
Well, it's partly because, and again, irrational rules. It's probably because there are some Pokemon it is impossible to get that ribbon for.
Right? Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
I've got my Gigantamax Meowth. All right, it's a gimmick build. You can't evolve it into a Persian. If I put it on a team and I do well enough in competitive in the season to hit master rank, I'd have to be doing exceptionally well to have this Meowth in the back to pick up this ribbon. So part of my mind has decided actually I'm fine with not getting the master rank ribbons. And then the last one is you get a ribbon for beating Leon in the battle tower. So there's the battle tower, as I mentioned before, is much easier in this game. So if you have a team with throw in your best team, chances are you go through I think it's a random number of battles, and eventually Leon pops up on rotation. So you have to beat the tower. You have to get to masterable rank first, which is easy. You don't really drop ranks. You just kind of keep battling and winning, and then you get there. And then every now and then Leon will come up, you beat Leon, and if you beat him, everyone who you use in your party, so that'll be 4 Pokemon if you're doing doubles, 3 Pokemon if you're doing singles, will end up with the Battle Tower. Sorry, it's Battle Tower, not Battle Tree. Battle Tower ribbon. So I've been doing that, and initially, I was picking and choosing some of the most competitive Mon, and that was easy to do. And then now I'm kind of down to the weirdos and just kind of average Pokemon. So in order to kind of minimize the amount of time I'm sat just going through the battle tower winning, and I've got so many battle points, which is normally a rare resource, but I think I'm up to 700 just through getting 2 every battle. You also get rare berries as well, so I think I've got 3 of each of the rare berries just in this ribbon quest. One of the bonuses in this ribbon quest is getting all these rare berries and these battle points. And then Leon, who you face, he changes his team a little bit, but he always has a Charizard who he Gigantamaxes. And then he normally has 2 out of 3 of the starters. A really annoying Seismitoad or a really annoying Aegislash. And so that's all I've been doing, is sometimes succeeding, sometimes failing, and pulling a team of losers through just to get this fucking virtual ribbon, which no one will ever see. And that's been fun. And that has been fun.
That's cool.
Yeah. But do you see what I mean about artificial rule sets and that's one of the things I like about this game.
And to sort of bring it back on WoW as well, is like with WoW you kind of need to, as soon as you get in, decide what you're gonna do. Because if you don't do anything, there's so many ways that you could just fritter all your hours and you do nothing. So you kind of like last night I decided, right, okay, I'm going to step in and I am going to do nothing but I have a little area where I'm sort of grinding items that sell quite well on the auction house. So I'm doing that to get gold so that I can buy some of the nature protection potions or the mats for it and stuff like that. So it's just like, right, you need to do that, then you do that. Or another day I went to a dungeon because you can get certain mats in there, so I went that dungeon by myself. That is my goal. That is the thing I'm going to do. Because if you don't have those things, you can just sort of wander or end up just chatting to your guildmates and not actually achieving anything in the fucking game.
And I think in that similar vein, with the Isle of Armor expansion, so it was kind of hard to do it before. So we mentioned on the blog many times and a couple of times on podcasts, sometimes the real longevity of a Pokemon game is what happens after you finish the story. How compelling is that bit afterwards, when you might just be breeding, shiny hunting, ribbon challenges, and in some games it's been poor, there's next to nothing to do. In other games there's kind of been a richness of distractions, so actually there's this battle tower here, or I'm going to get my festival plaza up to ridiculous levels so I can grind for this one particular rare item. And prior to the Isle of Armor coming out, I kind of got it down to essentially half an hour of running around the wild area. There's a couple of daily things you can do. So there's a lottery you can do. There's a guy who will pay above the odds for rare items. But essentially just do a big circuit of the wild area, hoover up all the berries, hoover up all the hidden items. There's a couple of NPCs who will give you stuff for Watts. There's a woman you can challenge who gives you loads of money, and then a few of these other things. But it was kind of down to half an hour. And then in this expansion, if like you say, you're not focused or you don't really know what you're doing, that you can easily just waste a day's worth of gaming just kind of sauntering about. I'll do a few raids, I'll get what's here, I'll go over here. It's a far bigger area to kind of just cleanly hoover up, and I'm finding that conflicting. So on the one hand, I really like it, right, especially because you see your Pokemon, so it is that kind of immersion on this island, despite what I said at the top of the podcast about escapism. And you just have a wonderful time just kind of idling around. There's an item there, there's a berry there. I'll go and do this raid. I've done all the raids. They popped again. I'll see if I can hunt out the artificial purple one. So there's that side which I like, but then I could just use all my time every day just kind of doing circuits around the wild area and Isle of Armor, and not picking up these ribbons or shiny hunting or whatever it is that I feel like I should be doing sometimes.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know that I'm spending more time on WoW than I am on Pokemon, and this generation of Pokemon, I've kind of already sort of mentioned this before, is endgame is a little bit, I'm finding it hard to be drawn into it as much as I was with the other ones, purely because I think it's no longer on a portable format. I know you can argue that it's on the Switch, but it's not something you can just keep in your coat pocket like you could the 3DS,
Yeah.
So it's a little bit less engaging for me in that fashion. But secondarily, because everything is so easy to get to your best possible Pokemon with the best build and things like that, it's kind of like I am not motivated. I know that sounds so stupid and so the wrong way around, but it's kind of like when it was harder, it was kind of like, right, okay, I need to knuckle down, I need to get X, Y, Z done.
Yeah,
but now
I need a pen and paper and a spreadsheet. Yeah,
but now it's kind of like, whenever I need it, I'll do it. And whenever I need it, it's just not happening because I'm not actually playing it. So it's kind of it's a weird vicious cycle almost, where it's just sort of I'm not playing it because there's no need for me to play it, and it's just dragging me down that path of not wanting to play it, which is a shame because I don't know, there've been quite a few.
You do go in phases. You personally do get in phases with Pokemon as well. So I fully anticipate a future time, perhaps when WoW Classic content's run out, where you will be back in, and then just this amazing team of annoying Pokemon as you've been working away at will suddenly appear.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we used to have those challenges. That's what really used to really get me ridiculously into it. I'm
thinking we need to have another one.
yeah. I was just thinking that'd be quite. If we could cap that and put it up on our video podcast TV. Yeah. But yeah, it's just like we used to do these monotype challenges where we would randomly get assigned a single Pokemon type out of the 17 that are available, and then we just had to train the hell out of that, or make 6 Pokemon that were viable to fight versus that other 6. So for instance, I think one time I had water and you had bug.
Yeah, I got a dark because these are some of the guys I'm now putting through this ribbon challenge. So I had Sableye and Zoroark, which is from when I had dark. I picked dark at one point. But I guess one of the things I didn't say is I'm glad this stuff exists, because whether or not, and again, people in the community have been saying that they're gearing this one more towards competitive, and that this expansion's the competitive expansion, which I don't really agree with at all. I think it's something that people are just coming up with in their own minds, because they think there's this artificial division between people who play Pokemon competitively and people who play it for whatever other reason. But I'm glad this other stuff does exist. And with the Pokemon Company and Game Freak and whatever, because they're so cryptic about why they do things, is always kind of second guessing. Well, they put all this stuff in here. So do they anticipate that there'll be people like me who will spend hours grinding out ribbons? Do they anticipate that
if they don't say anything, they can't be proven wrong?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do they anticipate that there are that people will just completely break the item economy and just have hundreds of this and hundreds of that? But then I guess that's another plus point towards the game, right? There's not one way to play it. There are hundreds of ways to play it, and that's the weird thing at the heart of it. Apart from our challenges, is I'm not really interested in playing online or competitively either. So I don't know. Maybe a therapist will be able to tell me that why am I making all these optimal competitive Pokemon to then never use them, or to only use them against the CPU? I don't know. Is the answer to that question? Yeah,
it's. I don't know. It's just nice to actually finally have those. But I think when Sword and Shield first came out, and when I was walking into raids and I was getting, 6 perfect IVs, and I was like, what is this game? This is like one of the hardest things to achieve in the world, and I just randomly got, 6 perfect IVs and a Charizard. Like, oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
It's kind of shat over all of the previous work that I've done.
It really doesn't help with the hoarding mentality either, right? Because Pokemon Home comes with however many slots, and you're like, oh, I can't get rid of that because that's got its hidden ability, and I might need that hidden ability if I ever decide to make a version. Oh, I quite like this Pokemon in this ball, so I've got to keep one in a fancy ball. One of the Capricorn balls, and and then as you just said, I've stumbled across a 5 best IV Copperajah and the 5 stats that you need the best. Okay, I must make sure that I don't trade that away. And it's like, why are you hoarding all this stuff that you'll never ever use? So I guess that's one of the reasons perhaps why I like doing these ribbon. You max out the EVs, you can now max out the IVs. Put together a robust move set, get the ribbons out, because then that, to me, that's that's kind of finishing, putting the cherry on the cake. Is okay, I don't have to worry for the time being about this Pokemon or this species, because it's now done and dusted, and I can move on to something else. So I think
it's not always the case. Like I was saying the other day, there's like I have 2 viable Sylveons. I would love to have a shiny Sylveon, and before the Sylveons were able to be, sent over from the previous game, I was Sylveon hunting with you. Yeah. It's just fucking nuts, I
have 5 Wobbuffet builds, and bearing in mind
How many moves can he learn?
It's the smallest moveset. Wait, because I've got two that I dragged through games, and so I've kind of fixed them up in terms of stats. And I've got one that's defense leaning, one that's special defense leaning. Then I've got a shiny that I've got in a trade, but I can't change its name. And then I'm currently shiny hunting for another one so that I can name it myself. Hopefully, I get a shiny male, and I've got a shiny male and female. And that's a Pokemon with virtually no moveset. And yeah, I've ended up with 4 or 5 different versions of it to bring to the game. Anyway, so yeah, I'm glad we've had this chat, because there have been moments where I've been like, am I having fun? Or is this a good use of time to be trying to drag a Barbaracle and a Shedinja through a battle tower to get a ribbon that no one will see? But it's fine to do things that you enjoy, I think. And for some reason,
exactly.
It seems really hard to keep that in mind.
Yeah, and kind of just to go back on what I was talking about with the Spelden, that is something that really has been playing on my mind a lot. That is the thing that I've been thinking about before I fall asleep at night. So, just to go back on that point. So I was like, it was a week or so ago, one of my guildmates managed to get one of the items that is really, really key for the Spelden build, and it's called the Blade of Hannah. And he just sort of, because he knows that I like playing about with the Spelden thing, he sort of, do you want it? Because I got it for so cheap, I'll give it to you for the same price. And I'm like, really? Okay. I mean, it's not cheap. It's cheap for what that item was. Yeah. It's just like, I was thinking, I've got the AQ thing coming up, and it's only really a silly meta that actually makes Rip Paladins worse, but damage-wise at least. I don't know. So I kind of said no to him, and then that night I was just couldn't stop thinking about, I should get that blade. I really should get that blade. It's like literally first thing in the morning, get up and just sort of send him a message. You still got that sword, by the way?
Absolutely. The same thing happened. I think we mentioned it on the poddy. But there's a new move tutor in Isle of Armor, and it has a new rock type move.
The special move.
How could I best make use of that? And it's like, Lunatone uses it. Oh, okay. And then, I'm sure a couple of nights, laying there waiting to fall asleep, it's like, okay, if I got Lunatone, okay, I can get him there, so I could just. And then, before you know it, I shiny hunted a Lunatone. He now has that move. They now have that move. I've run them through the battle tower. They now have that nice little ribbon, and they're sitting there waiting. So yeah, it's that. I think that's what games which have that kind of we keep saying complexity. It needs a better word, but that kind of complexity of ecosystem, or rules, or things you can do. So I can either do crafting, or I could be breeding, or I could be shiny hunting, or I could be sorting out my gear, and then it allows you to kind of come up with these little projects, I guess. And that's what I'm loving about Pokemon at the moment, is these projects, and then kind of working on them. And I guess that's where you're currently at with your Spelodon.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not actually been tested in the wild, so I think next Tuesday I'll be trying out the Spelodon with all of the gear that I've got, and then just seeing how disappointingly it sort of floats in the damage meter.
And then you'll kind of shelf that idea, or away.
That's the thing. It's still perfectly viable out in the real world. What's real world? Fucking hell, Richie. Out in Azeroth. Still perfectly viable, and I'm glad that I've done it.
Yeah. That's exact. I think that's exactly the feeling, right? It's I can still run around on my own game with my shiny Wigglytuff who has Heal Pulse, Helping Hand, and something else. I'm not going to win the worlds with that. Oh no, I'm not even going to try. No. But I'm happy that I have it, and it's there should I want it. And I tried, and that was that little project done.
Yeah, cool. Right. So I think the last thing unless there's anything else Pokemon related you wanted to bring
No,
up.
that's it. Just that's an update.
So yeah, one thing that we sort of touched on was partners and trying to get them involved in games and things like that. Mm-hmm. So one of the games my other half quite likes is she's really into beat 'em ups.
Button bashers.
Button bashers, but no, as in like side-scrolling beat 'em ups. So a couple of weeks ago, I bought the Capcom beat 'em up bundle.
Oh yeah,
and it's actually called the beat 'em up bundle. I didn't even know this existed, and so we've been playing through those versions of beat 'em ups, the Capcom ones. And they're really good fun. It's like a bundle of like 7 of the old arcade Capcom games.
Yeah, came out a while ago.
A couple of years ago, yeah. 2018, yeah. And it's on Switch and I think every platform. But yeah, I think it was cheap in the Steam summer sale or whatever, so I picked it up. And yeah, it's 7 games. They're well presented. They're of course 4x3 because of the old arcade machines not being widescreen. But yeah, it's fun. So you got games like Final Fight, which was actually is one of these games that I knew existed and knew things about, but didn't realize were like. It was directly connected to like the Street Fighter series, so like the characters in it, like Hagar and Cody and all that. Yeah. They're in Street Fighter from Street Fighter 4 onwards, sort of thing. And I didn't realize. And Poison comes from Final Fight as well.
Yeah.
And I was just like, there's Poison and there's these guys, and like, oh, this is quite cool. So there's a different origin. I didn't realise that they just decided to merge those two universes, or that the Final Fight universe was in fact in the Street Fighter universe or whatever. So that was quite fun. Yeah. And yeah, the other games they've got Captain Commando, which I haven't jumped into, but of course is Capcom's namesake. Yeah. They've got. This is a perfectly good name for a mobile game. You ready for this?
Yeah.
The King of Dragons.
Oh god, so generic. I mean, you can't fault it, right? Because it's old, but that would be that'd be a 10-cent mobile game. You'd see the adverts for it, and they wouldn't show you any gameplay.
Exactly. All right, okay.
Is Dinosaurs and Cadillacs on there?
No, it's not.
Ah, boo.
But yeah, the King of Dragons is all sort of Capcom Final Fight meets Dungeons and Dragons. So you have was it 5 characters? You have like a fighter, a wizard, a cleric, an elf, and a dwarf. I don't know why the elf and dwarfs are just defined by their race.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, not by their careers.
It's always the class and then races. Yeah.
And yeah, the simplicity of these games as well is quite strong because they're just 2 buttons. So like with most other buttons, you have like a jump button, you've got a strong attack, a weak attack, and then a special attack or something like that. With these, it's just straight up. You have a punchy move, and you have a jump. That is it. Like, there is no other variation there. There's no 4 buttons. It is, you can press the 2 together and you do a special attack, but all of these games follow that exact same principle of you just have a basic attack. And with the King of Dragons, which played through, it's quite easy, but there's no comboing in it either.
Okay.
So it's like even in Final Fight, like you can like get into a combo 1, 2, 3, fight, and then chuck them or something like that. With this, it's just straight up throw a fireball, throw a fireball, throw a fireball, or hit once, hit once, hit once, hit once, and that's it. And you're like, I feel like this is the weakest of the lot, and it's got this pseudo RPG system in it as well. So at the end of every level, you get a new item which improves your fireball or your sword, or you get a level up which I think gives you more health. But
okay,
ultimately everybody levels up, and I think it is just based on each level. There is no actual RPG mechanic. It's just if you were to go to level 14, your character would be this level, and you would have all of these items.
Okay.
And between each level, you get to change your characters as well, which is quite cool and different. But yeah,
good. What else is in the bundle?
There's Knights of the Round, which I haven't fired up, but is you kind of mix those two up. King of Dragons, Knights of the Round. And it doesn't involve being summoned a million times against Ruby weapon.
Yeah.
It's King Arthur. So you get Arthur, Lancelot, and Percival as your characters. And I'm guessing they are going to be burly white men that hit things.
Yeah, and Morgana Le Fay is going to be in there at some point. From Merlin.
Yeah, Merlin maybe as well. Yeah. I would say that King of Dragons has no female characters at all in it, except for a princess which I rescued, which early 90s games. The next one they have is Warriors of Fate, which is that's all just samurais, or it's just along those lines, and it's just all old Japanese sword slashing, well, I mean, it's again follows the same mechanic, and I'm sure it's fun. I've only just touched the surface of it. The next one,
did any of these characters appear in that Capcom gacha game that you liked?
I don't play a Capcom gacha game.
The big RPG which had all the Capcom characters in it.
The big RPG with all the Capcom characters in it? Yeah. I don't know what you're talking. That's not gacha.
It basically is.
There's nothing gacha about it.
Yeah, you go through and you collect all the characters. Anyway, one of these characters in that game.
You don't collect the characters.
Yeah.
You unlock the characters. There's no. You don't get like. You don't get shards of them, and then you have to combine 100 shards, and then combine another 200 shards to create the second level of them or whatever. No. I think. I don't know. I mean, Captain Commando definitely turns up in Project Cross Zone. Project Cross Zone's it's just an action RPG. It's not gacha in any way. Just so we're clear here.
Collecting characters carries that game.
It's not even. It's using the characters and choosing the characters. Like, you have to use almost all of them. Oh man, you do not know what that game is. You would love it. Right.
I've seen videos.
I don't know. I actually haven't gone back to look at whether or not these characters are
generic dwarf is in there.
I know. Elf. Oh man. But yeah, it's like I don't know. Maybe. You've thrown me off with that one. Because I'm so angry that you're calling it a gacha game and you know it.
The gacha game.
But yeah, Captain Commando definitely turns up. Oh man, do you know what I'm going to do? Next podcast is going to be all about Project Cross Zone 1 and 2.
Well, maybe we'll find out if any of these characters are in those games.
Yeah, maybe.
What are the other games in this one?
Okay, there's just 2 more games. One of them is...
How many were there in total?
7.
And how much did it cost you? Do you remember?
Oh god, I was thinking it was something like $5.99 or something like that.
Oh, okay, that's pretty good value.
It really is. But the games are quite short. I mean, you will finish Final Fight in, an hour and a half. Yeah. But yeah, the next one is Armored Warriors, which is an odd take on beat 'em ups. It's basically fighting robots that move unrealistically quickly, sort of along those giant mecha things that the Japanese love so much. It wasn't fun to play. They did introduce like a special mechanic in it. So again, you press the two buttons together, but then there didn't seem to be a way to get that special move back. So of course, first time playing it, you do your special move, and then you're like, oh, I can't use my special move ever again.
But don't forget, a lot of these games were initially designed to just eat your your coins.
Yeah, it's true. It has a weird mechanic because you can shoot as well. So there's a lot of you have to be firing sort of like bullet heli at the same time, firing bullets at your enemies, and then sort of jumping in with a combo of some sort with your machine. I played the first level of it, and it was a thing, but I just didn't feel engaged with it at all. But I mean, that is what it is. And the last one, Battle Circuit. Have you heard of Battle Circuit before?
No, it's not ringing any bells.
Right. Battle Circuit is what I refer to as the batshit crazy one, because it is absolutely nuts. It's like super Japanese. So it's taking place in the year 20XX, and it is like the characters you have. Like one of the characters' names is Pink Ostrich. And you get like everybody's sort of like different colours. So Pink Ostrich is basically a girl called Paula Abdul, who sits on a pink ostrich. And the
Paula
ostrich.
Abdul.
Yeah, straight up.
After Paula Abdul.
After Paula Abdul. Yep.
Okay.
Who sits on this pink ostrich. It is the only pink ostrich in the world that can fly, and it makes one noise, and it's so frustrating to listen to. But yeah,
Are you sure? I don't know. Are you sure you just didn't accidentally sit back too fast and had a concussion, and you just completely imagined this last game in the bundle?
Listen, have you
Google checked that it exists?
Google Battle Circuit. There's a Catwoman in it as well, who's kind of like Felicia, called Yellow Iris, and then you got like generic Captain Silverman, who I mean. Oh, here we go. Cyber Blue, a seasoned bounty hunter with several cybernetic attachments to his body, makes a cameo appearance in Project Cross Zone 2 and Captain Commando's solo unit attack. So, yeah, they do turn up in other ones then. There we go.
That's
it's
nice.
Not a gacha game. But yeah, the other thing is, it is epileptic nightmare. There is so much screen flashing. There is so many obnoxious sounds going on. The first boss character I fought was Elvis, and it's fucked up. Proper Japanese mad mentalness, and it's everything you kind of expect from a game in the late 90s that was in the arcade. But yeah, it's have a little look at. Just look it up and have a look at some of the screenshots or video gameplay of it. It's nuts. I didn't like it because I couldn't keep track of what was going on in the screen, and there was too many blips and blops and flashes. I was I was like, oh, I don't like this. I'm done. I'm not interested in this one. It's fucking that's it really. But yeah, that's a fun one. So we've been playing through that 2-player cooperatively. Good fun together. And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier with the whole finding games that your partner likes to play. She's also quite enjoying Mortal Kombat. Did you know that there's a rumor that DLC in Mortal Kombat 11 might have Ash from Evil Dead in it?
Oh my gosh! Is there any other evidence? I mean, has Bruce Campbell said anything about it on Twitter?
Well, Bruce Campbell actually denied it, but who knows? Who knows? But yeah, they did. I don't know if you saw that there's because there's no season 4 of Ash vs Evil Dead. That there's going to be a season 4 game of Ash vs Evil Dead.
Oh God. Okay.
Yeah, there is.
Great. Who's making that? Like I said, there are a stack of Evil Dead games out there. Some of which are good, some of which are not so good.
Time Splitters 2 is an Evil Dead game, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, if you throw in, a Evil Dead episode of Reboot as well, if you throw in the broader electronica or digitalis Evil Dead representation, yeah, there's quite a few. Well, I remember I've just had flashbacks of playing a point-and-click Evil Dead game.
What?
Wow. Yeah. There was sort of you're in the old cabin. Wow, back in the early 2000s.
I don't believe that exists.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see.
Right.
We'll see whether Mortal Kombat can join the heady heights of Evil Dead.
Okay. Cool. Well, I think on that bombshell... Oh, fuck off. I can't believe I just said that. Bombshell.
Bombshell. Now that we've mentioned WoW, Pokemon, and Bruce Campbell's potential cameo in Mortal Kombat, time to cue the music. See you next time.
See you, bye, Farley.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello. More work? Alright.